Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody, or good evening. Welcome to Vinyl Junkies episode 45. Hello, Kim. How are you?
Good. How are you, Jumbo?
Jumbo, thank you very much. I'm doing okay. We have a lot on the set today, including a bunch of Vinyl 101 stuff. I got some new equipment. I'll tell you about that. So we'll talk a little bit about cartridge alignment and turntables, and we'll talk also about reissues because I received a box of stuff. So there are stories there. How's your week been, Kim?
Hot. Holy Mother of God. It is so hot. I know I
102
live in
degrees?
Texas. Yeah, I photographed a wedding on Friday and it was 102. I was just like, end of June. I don't want to bitch about the weather, but I'm going to bitch about the weather and the mosquitoes and the bugs. But yeah,
I have
holy
just
shit,
one
it's
question.
hot.
Actually, now that, dude, you're like fucking white as Casper the Ghost. How does that, how does one survive 102-degree weather as a wedding photographer and just keep that fine alabaster skin of yours, Kim?
I'm usually not outside too much. I was at this wedding, but the sun had whatever. I use extreme like goth level sunscreens. Is what I do. But I also grew up on the equator, so I don't know. I swear this is hotter than it was when I was growing up in Africa. I swear. Maybe I'm just older.
You know
I don't
what,
know.
man?
I'm dying though. It is so fucking hot. Oh my god, I can't. Words can't express. Anyway,
Do you find do,
moving on.
do you
But
find that the weather changes? Well, actually, you see, the thing is, again, I'm asking somebody who lives in, you know, and lives in the southern United States. I can speak for myself, right, where there's a lot of seasons. But I was going to ask, does the weather affect the records you play?
oh yeah,
Like, do
yeah.
you
I mean, if
find
it's
that you got
rainy or
seasonal
whatever.
records kind of thing,
I mean, I'm gonna go goth all damn year, but yeah, I mean, if it's stormy or rainy, I might go one direction over the other. If it's really hot, I tend to get more punk and metal in the summertime, I guess. Maybe. I
Why,
don't know
for
why.
energy?
Maybe it's to like vent my frustrations at the sun. I don't know. I,
Okay.
I don't know. It's weird.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, here, I mean, obviously, up in Canada, winter gets pretty sucky, and as a
Yeah.
result, you just kind of like bunker in, and a lot of the kind of like that's when the black metal comes out for me. But summertime comes around, oh, it works perfectly. Uh, but summertime comes around without any question. Just the reggae starts coming out, and the international music, and that's what it is that made me want to talk a little bit about gear. I have a question. When you're not listening to vinyl, how do you listen to music? What is let's forget, let's say, CDs. Do you stream, or are
Yeah.
MP3s really something that are completely gone?
I mean, most of the people I know seem to be all about. I mean, I constantly get asked about or linked to Spotify and stuff. Mostly Spotify. I don't have Spotify. I don't stream. Not that I'm against it. It's just not my thing. I listen to vinyl and I listen to CDs
Okay.
and a little bit of radio, but non-commercial radio. No advertisements radio.
It doesn't look like this is going out on YouTube. Sorry, on Facebook, but it's probably going out on YouTube, and it is. So what we're going to do is continue and show this afterwards on Facebook, because we mess up sometimes. No, the reason I'm asking, I guess, is the era of the mixtape. I mean, what do they call it now on Spotify? The playlist, right? Is it
Right.
still like so? Playlist versus mixtape. I haven't bought into the whole Spotify thing, maybe because I'm not seeing it, but the reason I'm mentioning this is there's this Lady Saw record that I have. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to pull it. I put it somewhere, but Striptease. Okay, it came out in 2002, and side one and two are probably my favorite dance hall records ever. She's rude as heck. The thing is that you can't find that music anywhere. So I don't know anything about Spotify, but when we hang out at the pool and when we do our summer thing, we like to have the playlist, right? I like having dance hall on that playlist, and I can't find a torrent of it anywhere. So what I wound up doing is I wound up ripping from my vinyl to make an MP4 through this software. Then I had to transfer it from MP4 to MP3. And then, because you're recording on vinyl, dude, I'm looking for a better answer. Then, because you're recording on vinyl, you record the entire side. So what you then what you gotta do is visit a website that allows you to edit the MP3s. Like, you know, those websites where you can take just a portion of the song and make a ringtone out of it. Use one of those so that you can cut the individual tracks. In other words, I spent about an hour yesterday trying to just get MP3 rips of 6 Lady Saw songs. Okay, there's got to be an easier way.
I have 2 questions then.
Yeah.
Can you buy those songs like on iTunes?
I would never ever pay for an MP3. Fuck that. No. So that's not an option for me.
Okay. I'll buy MP3s.
You'll buy MP3s, eh? Okay. No.
I don't ever listen to them, but I've bought them.
Okay. No. I always, because for me,
that's another discussion, maybe.
It is, well, it is a discussion. It's just, it's a test drive for me. I always did see MP3s as test drives because I always look for it on wax. So I won't buy for the test drive. I won't buy a test drive.
Okay, well, then maybe Spotify is the way to go. Everybody has their playlists and stuff. The only reason I've been tempted to get Spotify is because, man, people talk Spotify at me all the time. And then there's a couple web pages or whatever. There's the Slicing Up Eyeballs, the 80s. They've got a Facebook page.
Okay. And
there's a dark wave one or whatever where they do playlists, like what they're playing. And I think they're Spotify lists so that you can listen to their preset playlists.
I would like, look, I'm going to look into it right now, man. My kid's going into high school, so right there, she's going to be all over the Spotify. I figure just whether I like it or not, I've kind of resisted. There's certain things in life that I resist as much as possible, Kim. And it's not that it makes sense, but it's just psychologically, I can't get past the idea of, for example, paying for parking. I fucking hate paying for parking. You have no idea. So going to those parking lots, paying $20, $30 just so that my car can sit there and I can go catch a show makes me completely insane. So I'm one of those assholes who will just circle around and around and around for 40 minutes looking for looking for a parking spot. It's the same type of thing with MP3. And up to maybe this discussion right now, it's been kind of the same thing with Spotify. It's like, no, it's just... that's not how I consume music, but
it's like I'm really not against it. I just don't have any personal use for it. Just because I'm at the record store all day long. I listen to records 6-8 hours a day, plus at home. So, and then in the car now I've got Jane Honda. I listen to CDs like a mad woman. It's so awesome.
Who's Jane Honda?
That's my new Honda. That's my new car.
Oh, you give your car names. You see, that's nice. Okay, now, no, that's not a good question. We got to keep this on vinyl. So look, do you guys have any tips on how to rip vinyl that's a lot easier than what I just spoke about? Because it's the first time I've actually done this, and it was a record I wanted badly enough, and there weren't any torrents. And the other question is, open question to Spotify users. One of the reasons I haven't switched over to Spotify is that my summer playlist, for example, is something that I can play off of my phone and I can take it to my car, etc. There's no streaming necessary, so there's always that thing. And how well does Spotify work in a car?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, Spotify technically is streaming. Can you download a playlist so that you don't have to stream it, like if you lose signal? I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
I hate to feel like an old fogey, but I don't.
Hey man, listen, dude, we're old fogies, and that's why we know vinyl, right? Because we've lived with it. Younger people, the younger generation, are more familiar with the streaming, so we ask questions, man. Yeah. And like, I am curious because for me, again, the MP3 or just the streaming, everything outside of vinyl is because I can't listen to it that way. So I'm looking for the best way, and the way I've been doing it up to now is the MP3. And the reason I like it is because you can take it onto the phone, and you can just run Bluetooth from the phone, and boom, it's done, right? So how easy is it with Spotify?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd like to know. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. Like I said, I might download the app today and mess around with it.
And then you can give me an answer. And you know what? There's something that I do like. I think more just as a almost a service, but I really do like the idea of doing, let's say, a Spotify playlist, a weekly Spotify playlist based on the albums we talk about, based on the artists, just to have it as part of the archive. Like, you guys will notice that on the vinyljunkies.co page, we put up a list of everything we talk about with links, listen links, buy links, because we want to give you a full experience. To me, I think maybe that Spotify playlist, rather than just have the buy links, just kind of like have a Spotify player on the side that allows you to listen to everything all at once, I think could be a cool thing. It's not a question.
I would listen to that because it'd be really interesting.
Right? Because think about it, right? You and me, we talk about so many things. I refer to last week where I asked you to go into more detail about Bauhaus, because I told you that I don't know Bauhaus. I don't know any of it. For example, I did not know that Bauhaus and Love and Rockets was connected in any sense, right? So I learned something. What I like about the idea of a playlist, about a Spotify playlist, and I know it's completely anti-vinyl, but what it is that I do like is that it will serve as kind of like the test drive. If you like it, you go out and buy it, and the buy links are on the site. But further than that, we bounce from one thing to another. If we have the playlist there, and it kind of follows, for example, the flow of our conversation, it kind of helps. Like, I'm thinking about it as a listener. It helps you put the pieces together and learn. Does that make sense to you?
Because we can't play samples on YouTube videos.
We're not allowed
because of copyright.
Yeah.
Man, it's all so complicated.
It is.
But yeah, I think it would be really cool. And
right?
Y'all, will you please go to vinyljunkies.co and look at the webpage, because I put a lot of work into putting the links up there. I mean, it's kind of like Vinyl Junkies, where we have to include the music link. All that stuff is on the website too.
Buy links.
Everything that we talk about is up there.
Buy links there too, and that actually does take me to the next thing. Should we stay on music, or should we go on gear? You know what? Why don't we go on music for a little while? But I do have gear talk.
Gear talk.
Gear talk. You know what? Why not? Let's just go into gear talk. I'm in the middle of changing turntables right now. Okay, I got my eye on another techniques, and I mean, for the show, and just because I am naturally curious, I like to change gear. I like to change cartridges. I like to read up on stuff and see the difference between one thing or another, and then report to you guys and see what you have to think. So I'm changing my turntable right now, and I have a certain stylus called a Jico SAS. Okay, to make a lot. Do you spend any time at all, or any extra money or anything like that on your stylus? Does that matter to you at all?
That's the one thing that I'm about to do. So I've been doing a lot of research, and I have a lot of friends that are like high end and then super extreme high end audiophiles.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm familiar.
Okay, so yeah, and it's just, that there's a whole lot of directions that you can go. And I like that. I enjoy reading about this stuff. Anyway, a few years ago, one fellow Vinyl Junkies member, Michael Van Evenhoven, who knows a lot about gear. He's been doing it a long time. He's old as dirt, so he's lived with this stuff most of his life.
I think.
Okay, so when we talk about cartridges and you learn about, what stuff is good or not, one cartridge that kept coming up are cartridges that are not made anymore. They're called the Shure cartridges, okay? There's a Type 3.
They just closed the factories or
yes,
whatever.
Sure.
And their business, yeah.
So they had a Type 3, a Type 4, and a Type 5. And those cartridges are supposed to be excellent. They track really well, okay? And Michael, through talking about him, he kept mentioning this stylus that he buys, a Japanese stylus called the Jico SAS. Now, although I've already used one, The Jico SAS. What does SAS stand for? Will I find it on time? Straight line. Anyway, it's a straight line stylus. Of course, I won't find it on time. Why would I put that in my notes? It's a straight line stylus, and supposedly it catches the groove a little different, and you hear it extracts a lot more detail out of the cartridge. Of course, every single every single guy says exactly the same thing, but I trust Michael, so I went out and bought these Jico SAS, and I realized that it's true. You hear a lot of good stuff, but it is so fussy. Dude, it is so fussy that if it's not perfectly aligned and if it's not perfectly set up, it sounds horrible. It somehow catches the groove. It's not forgiving at all, is what I'm saying. Okay. Right. Whereas other cartridges, almost every other cartridge that I've ever used was very forgiving. So I found myself in a situation where I'm trying to align my cartridge, and there's a million ways to do it. You can just basically print out a protractor online if you want. There are plenty of them, and just use that. But I have something called the Geodisc, which is what MoFi makes, Mobile Fidelity, and it's kind of like this platter. I gotta see if I have it right here. Okay, so I bought this a while ago. It's a $50 thing. Okay, and if you take it out, I'm showing it online right now, Kim. There's a bunch of measurements, and it allows you to kind of align your cartridge, right? And I've used it, and I've liked it. But when it came to the Jico SAS, which, again, seems to be far more sensitive, it wasn't enough, and I had to do it a couple of times. So how important is it to actually align your cartridge properly? Like, for example, you guys at your shop, you sell vintage gear, correct? Right. Do you offer alignment service? Like, do you install cartridges, or do they do that, or does the customer do that?
The guys will put new cartridges on there if they need to, and then they'll check the alignment, but I don't know how fussy they are about it. I mean, a lot of people, when they buy vintage gear like that, they're going to put their own cartridge on it anyway. Yes, you know what I mean? They're going to buy the gear and then maybe probably upgrade the cart. Not always.
Not always. You see, the thing is, you know what it is with vintage gear? You can get vintage gear for a great... Vintage, as much as I hate it, right? The fact is that you'll always get more bang for your dollar if you buy vintage gear than if you buy new gear. It's almost, except you got to fix it and stuff. But if you get stuff that's in good condition, right, you're going to get more bang for your buck on the old gear.
Well, I mean, and we sell gear that's, I mean, it's almost all from 60s and 70s, it seems to be. Like, sometimes 50s, sometimes a little bit into the 80s.
The silver face stuff, right?
Or the wood grain, or the wood cased stuff, Kenwood, Pioneer, or occasionally Marantz, Techniques in the 80s, whatever. But like, my Marantz is from 60 something. It is so old, and it is built. I mean, they built shit to last.
That's absolutely right. And that is what the difference is. It's just that stuff was built to last. And even if it breaks down, because there is the question of breaking down old equipment.
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather fix old equipment as long as everything's, as long as you can get the pieces and you don't have to start going into the whole searching for old pieces thing, than have to buy a piece of new equipment, simply because new equipment, in order to make stuff with the same quality, is going to cost you a boatload more if you buy new.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot of awesome brand new stuff out there, but if you want awesome, you're going to pay for awesome.
Look, we're not there yet, okay? But to kind of stretch out where it is that we are going with Vinyl Junkies, the entire idea is vinyljunkies.co is meant to be a page where you can have it all. So the web shop is happening. You'll see a couple of things, but I'm going to do that seriously because I know that a lot of people have questions, and a lot of people just want the guesswork taken out of all of that. So my idea, Kim, is to just break it down in the simplest way possible. You have a bronze level for entry-level people. You have a silver level, you have a gold level, and you have a platinum level or something like that. At least 3 levels, okay? And somebody who wants to buy stuff and not have to think about what cables go well with this, which speakers match with this, which cartridge matches well with this tone arm, without having to take all of that nonsense out, what it is that we're looking to do and what we're actively working on doing is getting you a cheap starter set that you know will work well together, and this is what it costs. No, yes, you can change, you can upgrade, but just this is it. Do the same thing for the silver level. This is it if you want to spend a bit more. You get your speakers, you get your turntable, you get your phono stage, you get everything right from top to bottom. And silver gets you this, gold gets you this, platinum, I'm happy to have high-end stuff there too. Not because everybody's going to buy it, but you know what? There are a lot of people that do want that. But, Kim, there is so much high-end stuff. All of this stuff is handmade. All of this stuff is completely boutique. It's impossible to know it all. And everyone has a different opinion. That's the thing too.
Yeah, I think the thing, you can get so super overwhelmed really fast. And I read a lot of audiophile kind of stuff because I have friends in the business and friends that are into it. I'm not that big of an audiophile. I'm just enough to know to be dangerous.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But I do somebody has, like having a site where, hey, if you want to have something that's in this price range, here's the entire setup. You don't have to think about it.
That's
you don't have to hem and haw over which
you can change
cartridge.
And maybe you can change within that, right? So let's say you go with bronze, and okay, bronze will include, this cartridge and that turntable and everything. And within that, you can kind of show upgrades for cartridge. I want to make it simple. I want to make buying gear simple because it's not. And it's frustrating to me because young people getting into this have no idea what they're doing, not because they're stupid, but because they didn't grow up with it. It's complicated. It's complicated even for people who have been doing it forever. I think we touched upon it last week, Kim, that, listen, I don't remember how it was for you, but I don't remember anybody ever exchanging a single fucking stylus in my entire life growing up to the 80s. Now, all of a sudden, people are changing styluses and people are talking about cartridges that cost thousands of dollars. I'm sure that always existed, but that was not within my stratosphere. You know what I mean? And I would think that the average listener isn't interested in that either.
I mean, it also comes kind of with age and your financial resources.
Sure.
Your availability. I mean, I had friends in the 80s that were gearhead audiophile, would do cartridges, but I know that that's rare. But I mean, yeah, I know that that's rare. And I deal with a lot of kids coming in who want to be able to have a turntable and they don't know. They have no idea. And I'm constantly encouraging them to buy a component system instead, spend a little bit more. We always have a really inexpensive starter one put together with whatever we've got instead of buying the Crosley that destroys the records, which I'm genuinely concerned a little bit about when the used market, all these kids buying stuff right now, these teens and 20s, that are buying new vinyl, and they bought a Crosley, which I don't blame them. I understand finances and not having the knowledge, just not knowing about what's out there, but then playing all those records, and then eventually all of us pass on stuff, trade stuff, when all those records start coming into the used market, I'm going to test them because I'm worried about the damage that those Crosleys are doing to the vinyl.
Yeah.
I'm thinking ahead about it. So,
but again, I'll tell you the crux of the biscuit, like Frank Zappa would say, is the apostrophe. Let me talk about the apostrophe. I'm pushing 50. I'm going to be 48 this Friday, Kim. I expect presents from you. That's the first thing.
So old.
Secondly,
older than you.
I know you are, but you look better than me, though. Look at me. I'm fucking decrepit. But I'm at the point where I would like kind of like a nice system. So I keep seeing tubes, for example. I've tried buying the cheap tube stuff. Cheap tube stuff sounds like shit. It does. because when the mistakes come out, believe me, you hear the pops. I don't want any part of that anymore. But I'd like that. I'd like to one day just be able to get a system. I don't need a million components. I just want a nice audiophile type system apart from what it is, apart from my techniques that I work with.
Right.
There's a friend here called Graham Humphrey who owns a shop, a local shop. It's a high-end shop. I don't even know the prices, but he's got a lot of gear. He's got a lot of tube gear and stuff like that. But his place is called Coup de Foudre. Coup de Foudre is basically, you know, like when you just have that passion and you just buy something. Okay, anyway, that's what it's called, Coup de Foudre. And he's got all sorts of gear in there. And the reason it is that I'll buy off of him is not because I know anything about his gear or that I can compare it to anything else, but basically because it's so fucking complicated. I don't want to listen to one voice talk to another and try to figure it out. It's too time consuming. I know that I trust Graham at Coup de Foudre. So what I do is I know that when it's time for me to buy that and I want to buy a good phono stage, for example, I'm going to go there.
Right.
Why? Because I'm not buying the equipment. I'm buying the fact that I know who I'm buying it from. I know this guy's a no bullshit dude. He doesn't play. It's just, he's way too straightforward in order to try to sell you garbage. So I guess it's on that premise that I'm trying to base any type of stuff that we do through Vinyl Junkies, including the sponsors we work with. We want to make sure that, you know, we've tested the gear. You know, so for example, what's it called? The speaker company, okay? When I'm looking at the bronze level or silver level, I'm not sure yet, but, you know, U-Turn Audio seems like a pretty good turntable to recommend to people because it gives you a lot of bang for the buck. We're talking about to a powered speaker company also called Kanto. They make powered monitors. And I'm working on trying to see if that fits it, because if it does, then you don't have to buy an amplifier, right? It's not the best way to do things. Obviously, a separate amp is what you want, but powered speakers just make the whole vinyl setup a lot easier. So I'm working on getting you a set of speakers so that you can play with and you can see for yourself, because I want to know your thoughts, and a pair for myself so that, you know, if these Kanto speakers work well with a turntable, we can comfortably go out and say, hey, you know what? That's something good to buy. Not because it's better than a Bowers and Wilkins, or it's because I don't want to fucking test a million pieces of equipment. This works. You know what I'm saying?
I don't either.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I've been through enough equipment that I kind of know what I like and don't like. And then I'm in the shop, and so I'm around a lot of equipment. But yeah, oh my God, it is so overwhelming. You can go down that rabbit. I mean, it's too much.
And the thing is that I think we fall into the category where we want the music to sound good. We're not gear fetishists. We just want the shit to sound good. We love music, so we want our music to sound good. So that whole rabbit hole requires attention. That whole rabbit hole requires knowledge. You got to study all of that. And that's not what I want to do. I want to listen to my fucking records. I want to listen to my records. I want somebody to tell me. I want somebody to tell me, you know what? That's good.
Yeah, do this, that, and the other, and you're set.
That's it.
Cool, let's go.
I don't give a shit if one element is a touch better. I don't care. I want to be able to just trust somebody and say, that's what I want. So that's where we're going with Vinyl Junkies. And Vinyl 101 shows are to follow. Are you excited, Kim?
Hell yeah.
Look at you.
Let's talk about music. We're like 30 minutes in and we haven't talked about music.
We're going to talk about music. You want to go first?
Okay, I scored something really cool. I've been looking forever. And it walked into the record store, and it is now mine. Here we go.
Good record.
Can you see?
Sure. Cash the Man Comes Around.
American For the Man Comes Around. The last record that he did while he was still alive.
Yes.
This is, there's a million bootlegs. This is an official. Not that I care. I just want the music. Although I was kind of holding out a little bit to try and find an original one of this.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the one that has Hurt on it. And My Own Personal Jesus, I think, right?
Personal
Yeah,
Jesus is
Personal
on that.
Jesus,
Yeah.
yeah, is on there. It's almost all covers. Rick Rubin produced it just like he did the other
Yeah, he did them all.
American series. Uh, and Johnny had a lot of famous people do backups or instruments or whatever on here. Even Fiona Apple, Nick Cave, Don Henley
Yeah,
did backing vocals on some of these songs.
Nick Cave's a one of the highlights for me. He does "I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry,"
Cry, yeah.
and if you listen to him,
And
he's
I mean,
trying to practically cry while he's singing the songs. He does a good job with it.
speaking of crying, when Cash died, I cried and cried. I'm still not over it. Cried. I mean, I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan. My friend John Standifer and I, who's one of my best friends, made when I first moved to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He and I in 1990, 1991 would drive around in our beat up cars and we would listen to a lot of Johnny Cash. Other stuff too, but a lot of Cash. So I am so happy to finally have this.
I don't have it yet. I had it on CD. Will be getting it. My two big items is I'll talk about Joni Mitchell reissues and just reissues in general after. But one exciting thing for me that was fun was I'm currently showing David Bowie Hunky Dory.
Oh yeah, one of the reissues.
Yeah, 2016 Parlophone reissue. Sounds great. It sounds fantastic. But it was a first needle drop for me. I never heard the record. The only way I knew David Bowie is always through radio and a couple of records, and it's fun to have just dropped the pretense of trying to pretend I know everything. I just now straight up, I've never listened to this. I've never listened to Bauhaus. I don't know what it is. Okay. I've never, so it's like, it just makes it so that instead of trying to pretend that you're all knowing and, you're supposed to be some authority on taste, which of course none of us are, you can just approach the music from the point of, you know what? I'm 48 and I'm listening to this record for the very first time, and I know exactly how classic it is. I know exactly what David Bowie fans think of it, and I've never heard Hunky Dory. I've heard Changes a million times. I've heard Life on Mars one or two times, not more often than that because it doesn't play on radio. And then I started listening to side 2, and song 2 is called Andy Warhol. And I made a point while I listened to this, right? I made a point not to read the track list. I didn't want to read the track list. I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to really just discover. So if there were the hits, I wanted to listen to the hits in sequence of the album like David Bowie intended. So Changes right out from the front, and liked it, obviously. But it's like, okay. Where it is that it started getting me was Quicksand.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know the history, okay? And I'm learning every day about Bowie, but he just sounds so sad.
Mm-hmm.
He sounds so sad, and now I want to know why.
The Andy Warhol song? That's one of those ones, how little pieces of lyrics from various songs, you'll sing them in your head a lot and they'll earworm you. That's definitely one for me. God forbid I actually see an Andy Warhol anything, painting in a museum. I did a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I can't, yeah. Those lyrics
it goes straight to your head, right?
All the time. All the time. Andy Warhol is a scream, hang him on my wall, that part, yeah. All the time.
The thing is that I listened to side 2. Again, I flipped it, made sure there was no titles, no nothing. Just played it, right? Sat down, nice and comfortable, smoked a joint, just listened to the entire thing. And this Andy Warhol song comes up, and it's like, wow, that's fucking cool. Who knew that David Bowie's connection to Warhol was that long? Because my only understanding of David Bowie and Warhol was when he played Warhol on the movie, right? The Basquiat.
Oh, no. There's a couple good stories there.
I want to know all of them, dude. But
yeah,
that's exactly why that's precisely the reason I wanted to go in with no preconceptions, because it's like, really, why don't you tell me about that now? Because Basquiat happens to be my favorite artist. This David Bowie stuff, I want to know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you read all the stories, but there's some good ones, especially about like the first time they met Yeah. I'm gonna let you read
You're
about
just
it.
gonna
It's
let me
fun.
read it. You know what? I'll accept that because reading it out of a book or out of an article is another thing. Basically, what you're telling me is that I should dig a little deeper, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
does where does this David Bowie record rank for you? Where does Hunky Dory rank for you?
Hunky Dory is probably in my top 6 or 7, 8, right around in there.
I
It's
have
up there. It's in the top 10 for sure.
the one that
Maybe in the. Mm.
the one I'm most anxiously waiting for is Low. I haven't heard Low. It will happen.
Dude.
Yeah, I know. It'll
It's a
happen.
whole. I mean, you know how it's going to be a whole different animal than Hunky Dory. Lo is a different creature.
And you just happen to have it right there, of course. I love it.
Bowie is wherever I go. There goes Bowie.
It's going to be a fun rabbit hole.
Yeah. All right. Oh, okay. So I discovered somebody entirely new to me this week.
Okay.
Never heard of him before. Now I'm in. So, okay. I went to a different record store, blah 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 blah, found these 2 records. I was like, well, something there is familiar. I don't know why, and I like the art, so I'm going to buy them.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, the artist or the name of the band music or whatever is Wreckmeister Harmonies.
Redmeister Harmonies.
Wreckmeister.
Wreckmeister.
Reckisto.
Gotcha.
Wreckmeister Harmonies. And it's really just one guy, J.R. Robinson. He's a solo guy, but when he does records, he collaborates with a shit tons of other musicians. I think mostly Seattle musicians. But, okay, so I'm going to talk about that more. But, okay, look at this cover art. It's really, really cool.
Nice. Label is Thrill Jockey, right?
Yeah, Thrill Jockey Records. This one is Then It All Came Down.
Did you buy that secondhand, or was that a new thing?
They were sealed, but they were like in a kind of a cutout.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, so in other words, they're probably old reissues and they're just liquidated.
These are, they were originals. They were sealed. I mean, I don't think many of these were really made because this guy is pretty obscure.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was the other one. It's called Light Falls. It's by some outsider artist, which I'll put the link to them. That first one was black. This one was kind of cool. I know. Look, it's kind of a smoked burgundy.
Vinyl.
Very pretty.
Okay.
Okay, so I made some notes because this guy is okay. It's considered, if you want to genreify something, pastoral doom.
So what is that? Religious doom?
It's kind of ambient and then doom.
Yeah, but doom is ambient.
There's a lot of ambient going. A little spiritual. The genre was pastoral doom. I died laughing, and then I was like, I gotta find out. That is kind of pastoral doom. Okay, I'm in.
I gotta find out. You have to find out what pastoral doom is all about.
I mean, yeah, you had me at pastoral doom.
I understand that.
So, so apparently he's okay. I think there's 6 albums. One of these is number 2, and one of these is number 4. Like I said, he gets a ton of other people to help him. He's got Godspeed You Black Emperor.
Oh, nice.
Codeine, like just a bunch of kind of cool, very cool musicians, bands, artists, whatever. So I think the whole thing is that he collaborates with other musicians for his albums. He perceives life as a long, gradual process of decay. Lightness fades into darkness, while innocence succumbs to the evils of modern society. His music reflects not only this worldview, but his emotional response to it. And that first one, Then It All Came Down, this one, the green one, is 2 songs, one on each side, very long songs. And it's okay, so the quote was, the piece is inspired by and takes its name from an essay written by Truman Capote following his interview with Manson associate Bobby Beausoleil, whose dangerous spirit and embodiment of occult ideals offers an extreme example of light into dark transition the piece explores. And then the other one was based on the text of "This is a man, Primo Levi's meditation on the year the author spent as an inmate in Auschwitz." Again,
Jesus.
that transitioning from like light into dark, gradual process, and a lot of his stuff deals with like aging and just that whole light into dark. So most of the songs tend to start very ambient, very light, very ethereal, and
Okay.
then they can go real doom.
Wreckmeister Harmonies.
Wreckmeister Harmonies.
Oh no,
Holy shit, y'all. I've never heard of this guy,
I'm
and he's
repeating it over and
amazing.
over again because I want to remember it for myself. Wreckmeister Harmonies. Yeah, I'm looking at the notes that you printed, and there were just a couple of names that did pop up. He's worked with members of the band Indian and Yakuza, which actually would surprise me because yeah, I guess. But Yakuza and Indian, pretty heavy doom bands, more obscure stuff,
And
but should be.
Leviathan, who's another solo artist.
Sure,
Yeah, another
sure.
doomy. Yeah.
Was Leviathan? Did you ever watch that doom metal documentary on YouTube about the three guys?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
Leviathan one of
Is
them?
one of those. Yeah.
Okay, Leviathan was one of them, and the other another guy, was it the guy from Anal Nathrak? One of them.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Well, I'll put a link to that documentary. It's on YouTube and it's really good
I
about
want to
those
watch that
three
again.
black metal solo artists. So
Yeah, I forgot which
it's
one.
really, really good. Yeah, I can't remember either. It's been a while since I've watched that one, but
They're
Leviathan is definitely one of them.
they're one of they're pretty weird. One guy, if I remember, I maybe watched it a couple of years ago, but one guy's pretty suicidal, pretty fucking weird, and another guy is kind of walking in the forest and telling you, I think it's Leviathan, that talks about how he's trying to play the music of the forest, the music he hears in the forest, or something like that.
Yeah.
Does that ring any
And well, and
bells?
I don't. Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn. And I don't know if it was Leviathan. It's one of those guys though, has been in some pretty heavy duty for some pretty serious domestic violence, and I'm not sure which one it was, but it was one of the guys in that series. So just if I put the link up there, just a little bit of a caution, trigger warning. It doesn't get discussed in there, but anyway, Wreckmeister Harmony. Holy shit.
Thrill Jockey.
Never heard of the guy.
I'll look for it. It sounds up my alley. I mean, it doesn't sound up my alley for the summertime, but, winter happens, Winter does happen. Winter is coming.
Very much winter is coming. Wreckmeister Harmonies is bringing the winter.
Sorry, guys. My Emperor records just don't come out in July. They don't. Ask me in January.
Yeah, it's so weird that I get it because you're in like Canadian hellscape winter, and
Yes.
I don't have that kind of winter. But I play I'm playing I Hate God and Buzz Oven and Cough and all that kind of stuff in the summertime.
Why don't we start? I got two more, but let's start with a really good reissue series, a Rhino reissue series. And I'm going to go a little bit into I'll let this start as one of them, but I'll go a little bit into one of my frustrations with the record industry in general. The fact that there doesn't seem to be any standard for us to follow. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. And it's frustrating as somebody who buys a record to almost feel like you're playing Russian roulette. You don't know if 1 out of 6 records is going to sound like shit, is going to look like shit. And that still seems to be what's happening in the music industry. You don't know what to pick up. I'll use a couple of examples. Rhino sent a whole box, and with them were some ZZ Top reissues. I'm showing a copy of Tres Hombres. And you'll notice that there's a little sticker here that says, Rhino, start your ear off right. So I take the stickers and I put them on the inner sleeves along with the hype stickers, right? So if you see that, that's the one that you're talking about. I'm not a color guy, but I must admit that having a record that's jalapeno green for Tres Hombres is absolutely great. And the reason I point this out is because this would be the example of a fantastic reissue. Because it's a nice cover. It's a nice thick cover. It's a gatefold. And for those who know this ZZ Top record, there's the big Mexican spread right in the middle. So it's really nice to look at. There's liner notes and everything. And this would be my example of a fantastic reissue. It's like...
Can we talk about how awesome ZZ Top is in general, too, just for a second? Texas band.
Forever. Of
Oh
course.
my God, don't dismiss ZZ Top. I know y'all probably seen a million records, but holy shit, those guys are amazing.
Uh,
And that album is especially good. Go ahead. Sorry.
Look, all my early ZZ Top is complete now. That was the only one I was missing. I have all of them because it's just they're another level. They're beyond, and I'm somebody, especially when you start talking about blues, I like listening to the authentic guys. And if the guys are white, I already use a strike against them. If the guys are from the UK, then I really use a second strike against them. But in the case of ZZ Top, it's a completely different thing because Texas blues is a completely different thing.
Yeah,
It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid that exists all on its own. And ZZ Top might be the progenitors of it, really the beginners. And so it's like it's just got its own stamp.
Yeah, they're not trying to just emulate somebody else. They're doing their own thing.
And the thing is that they're straight up about Texas too. Like right at the bottom, I don't know if you see it in the camera, but it says in the fine Texas tradition, right? And they're giving you the imagery, so it's like they're presenting themselves as from the very beginning as we're just a Texas blues band. What is a Texas blues band? Well, why don't we play the record for you and let you know? And it's all necessary. All ZZ Top is necessary.
Yeah, Billy Gibbons lives here. I haven't seen him in a while, but I used to see him around shows and stuff. So
he hangs out.
Anyway, who else? Yeah, he hangs out. Who else?
I'm going to use another example, okay? Other first needle drops, but I'm going to use another example to kind of show a little bit my confusion when it comes to quality or standard when it comes to records. Nice old Rhino box came out, so my Joni Mitchell collection's been coming together nicely. So, and I got this one here. I don't know, I don't have a lot of Joni Mitchell, but I'm getting there, right? So an album I have here is, what's the name of this record? I don't even know, just to tell you. Ladies of the Canyon, which was released in 1970, I believe. Anyway, early 70s.
That's one of the ones I'm still missing. I've got a lot of original Joni Mitchell, but I don't have that one.
So there you go, right? So you're fitting perfectly. If I had to suggest one, especially if you know the music, boom, dude, this is beautiful. This is a Stoughton tip-on jacket. You can tell just by the quality of it. It's nice and solid when you play it. There's the lyric sheet inside. It's beautiful. The vinyl is 180 grams, so a beautiful experience. Okay, comfortable making this kind of suggestion. If you have to buy, you don't have to look for original. You have it here. As a matter of fact, if you look up into Discogs, you'll notice that the original analog tapes were used in order to make these reissues, right? So it's a slam dunk.
Good.
Correct? Okay.
I'm all about it. All about it.
Right? Okay. Now, you would think that when you're going to make like ZZ Top, right? When they released the ZZ Top, they released a whole bunch of records. When they released Alice Cooper, same thing. Tom Waits, they always release a bunch at a time. So you would think that generally speaking, when you're buying a run of records, whether it be the Rush reissues, whatever, that you're expecting the same standard quality, right? Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I mean, you would think.
Okay. So I get this one here, and this is another Joni Mitchell record, The Hiss of Summer Lawns. And as far as I know, it's the same reissue campaign, but the album jacket is flimsy. It's just, it's flimsy. And the vinyl doesn't sound as good.
It's weird. I wonder why. I have an original of that.
Dude, but that's exactly my point. I wonder why. Not because I'm trying to cast aspersions here. It's just a question of, how is it that from the same reissue series, there's one where the quality of the... I mean, listen, all you got to do is show the spines and you can see it's like there's an obvious difference. There's an obvious difference in quality.
Summer Lawns is a much more well-known album. So you'd think it would be the other way around as far as the quality goes. Yeah, you can see the difference.
I just want to know where the line is. Because especially with Rhino, that's the one where I fucking don't know whether I should buy Rhino or not buy Rhino, because sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not. Okay, I bought, the example I always give is I bought a John Coltrane mono box set of the complete Atlantic years, and it sounded like utter dog shit. And I felt ripped off. I felt ripped off because it was a high quality item. It was a high cost item, and I was buying a certain experience, and the vinyl sounded like garbage. And that's not what I was buying. So I got stuck with a $200 brick. The jackets were nice.
It's interesting. I mean, in general, I'm a I'm Rhino is one of the labels I really love. I always have loved Rhino. I'm trying to think if I've bought. I mean, I know some of the stuff I've bought, reissue stuff has been
It's
Rhino, but I'm trying to think
fantastic.
if I've had any bad
Look,
experiences.
dude, the ZZ Top that I showed is Rhino. It sounds
Hmm.
brilliant. It's amazing. Okay. The first one
And
there,
both of the Joni
the
Mitchells,
Joni
yeah.
Mitchell one sounds amazing and it's great. Nice jacket, full, what I like to call the full vinyl experience, liner notes, everything. And the other one is very clearly cheaper. It's very
Okay.
clearly cheaper. Why? I just want to know why.
So, okay. I mean, obviously the jackets are different.
Yeah.
Have you looked in the dead wax to see what pressing plants the two of them come
I
from?
didn't, and maybe that's what the issue is because I'm wondering. Um, Look, now there's no excuse for bad records. There are so many new pressing plants. It's just there's stuff that should not be coming out. Oh, actually, the other complaint that I had about the Hiss of Summer Lawns, which is one that makes me batshit crazy, is the record was warped. Right out of the fucking cellophane. You slit the
Man,
thing.
I
You
hear that. I hear,
what the actual fuck? Okay,
I hear so many people. I haven't really had that happen to me, maybe once. And we don't sell that much new, but I hear people all the time talking about that shit. And people in other record stores that sell a lot of new stuff saying it's it's not our fault. I mean, they're coming that way. I don't
I just want
slow
to
those
know
presses down or something. I don't know why they're all
something,
coming
right?
out warped.
Something. There's something. But all I know is that um, people who buy records are making a financial commitment to that record. They're spending resources. They're not getting it off every other thing, right? They're buying this. You know what? If you buy a new car and the air conditioning starts making a knocking sound, it is unacceptable. It's unacceptable. If that happens, Ford or whatever, they put out something saying, you know what? We got to bring all these cars back because this is what's happening and we got to fix it. There's a defect. You can't do that with records. Try to return a warped record. You know what they're going to tell you for the most part? And you can't blame the record stores. Dude,
Because the record labels won't take them back.
the record labels won't take them back.
Or distributor
Thank
will
you.
not take them back.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the onus has to fall somewhere. Who is in charge of quality control? Because now that we're having now that we're having this conversation, I still don't know whether it is that Rhino is good or not. Because I have an example of a couple of Joni Mitchell records that are amazing. I got a ZZ Top record that's amazing, and a whole bunch of others. And then I have a $200 fucking brick that is the John Coltrane box set.
I mean, that's on the record label. That's on the record label. I mean, these warps that we're getting, that might be, I don't know if that's the distribution or the actual logistical shipping.
Yeah, I'm wondering if
going
just
on
hot
there.
trucks or something.
I mean, you know, I don't know where in the chain that shit's happening, but a really bad quality pressing, because I mean, if that whole Coltrane box is bullshit, then that's on the label.
Dude, there's a whoosh on it. Jazz gets quiet. Jazz gets quiet. You listen to a record like Ole Coltrane, at some point, you know, there's a bass solo happening, and there's nothing but bass. I think it's Reggie Workman that's on that one, but there's nothing but a bass solo. If there's any noise on the wax, you're going to hear it. So there I am, I'm listening to, let's assume it's Reggie Workman. I don't remember the bassist. I believe it is. And he's doing his bass solo on Ole Coltrane, and you hear that the vinyl makes noise. You know how it is that you know when the vinyl's no good or not, or when it's being pressed properly? You can hear it in the dead wax right at the end, and you can hear it especially the first needle drop. Don't go straight to the music. Just listen to the first couple of seconds. If you hear anything off the record, Superior Viaduct doesn't do that. That's why it is that I can say, you know what, go buy a Superior Viaduct pressing. If there are two pressings, go buy Superior Viaduct because it's good, because it'll always sound good. You know. And I think it's too bad that we still can't say that.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. I have another one.
Go for it.
I found a German original copy of this. I have another copy. Okay, I got Damned. The debut album, not EP, full album of The Damned.
That's Stiff Records, right?
Stiff record. Actually, was it on Stiff? Because yeah, it is still Stiff, but it's a German
Yeah, well, whatever
German
now. Gotcha,
pressing.
gotcha.
Yeah. It's in the sleeve's in okay condition. The vinyl's pristine, but I love The Damned. I was very, very stoked to see this. There's a really good talk about documentaries. There's a really good documentary. What is it called? Don't you wish we were? What was it called? Sorry, I'm gonna find it real quick. It's you can find it on YouTube, and I think it's on Showtime or something like that. Don't you wish that we were dead? 2015. It's a really good documentary that's like archival and new footage, and it talks a little bit about the rival between Captain Sensible and Rat Scabies. And the Damned has broken up and gotten back together and has had different members, but Captain Sensible and Rat Scabies have had an ongoing feud for decades. And so when the Damned tours, there's different versions of the Damned. And the Damned actually put out the very first punk single of all the punk singles. It's called New Rose.
Okay.
The very first punk single of anything in the punk genre. They were the very first ones.
What year?
But then, 76? Okay. 76. And then this album came out in 77, and it's got that song. It's called New Rose. It's on this album, on Damn, Damn, Damn. But they released the single the year before.
You know for an absolute fact that people are going to talk about what the first punk song is and argue it vociferously.
Oh, yeah. Bring it on. New Rose by The Damned is the first punk single ever released on wax.
And then you got, yeah, I know, and then you start going, oh, yeah, but garage rock and Iggy and the Stooges. And, before Iggy and the Stooges, they were the Monks. And there's the whole discussion. There's the discussion.
I know. It can go endlessly. And, I mean, I am the believer of Iggy Pop is the godfather of punk, so don't get me wrong. I still think that. Anyway, the documentary is really good, and this album is effing amazing. It's so much fun. This is a good summertime album. Be bopping along, listen to some Damned. Yeah, it's awesome. Gotcha. Highly, highly recommended. If you like some punk and pop and one of the originators of goth, Dave, right there on the lead singer. Yeah, the Damned are a fascinating band.
So, last one. Kim, what do you know about the Replacements?
Quite a bit. I've seen them.
Okay.
They're a Minneapolis band. I actually have laid hands on a couple of originals within the past 6 or 7 months, which are very hard to find. I love the Replacements.
I'm trying to do this properly because I haven't had a chance to listen to them properly, and rather than just blow through them, the Warner Box included, I think, 6 or 7 Replacements records, basically the entire discography. So
you son of a bitch.
Sorry, Ma, I forgot to take out the trash. Stink, Hootenanny. What's the one where they're on the roof? Let It Be.
I don't have Stink. That's one of the ones I'm on the hunt for.
Tim. It's called Tim. Pleased to Meet Me. And what the heck is this one here? Don't Tell a Soul. And finally, the one with the animals, All Shook Down. It will be a full first. I've seen him live. I've seen him at Lollapalooza, I'm sure, and I've seen him during the entire grunge period. But whenever I saw them, it was always in a festival environment, so I never went directly for them. Where would I start? Should I go should I go chronologically? I don't know.
I think you should, but if I was telling somebody to just buy a Replacements album. Okay. I usually say Tim or the first one that you showed. What's it? The very first one that was in that stack.
Sorry, Ma, forgot to take out the trash.
Yeah, I really love that album, and I really love Tim. I mean, they're all accessible, but I think it would be fun with that band in particular to go chronologically. I think since you've got them, that's what I would do.
I really like.
You have all of them.
I like the fact that you suggested it the way you did, because the 2 records you suggested were records that I did not even know before. The records that I kept seeing are All Shook Down and Pleased to Meet Me, with the handshake, and Hootenanny with the cover. I mean, those are the ones that I keep seeing. So what made you choose those 2? What made you choose the first record?
The first record, because that's the first Replacements that I ever heard. I have like a weak soft spot. Like if you, of course, they were coming out then. Do you know what year that was?
I'm looking at the moment, 1981.
Okay, so I didn't hear them. I was too young for that. I probably started listening to the Replacements about 84. I was about 14,
Way
maybe
before me.
15.
Okay. Well, I didn't know them.
But that was the first album that I heard. And you know when the band has a discography, even if they're still producing, but the first album that you hear of that band is usually the album that you end up liking the most or
Sure.
loving the most or
Yeah.
whatever. So I have that weakness. And then Tim, the song Bastards of Young is one of the finest songs ever recorded. I would put it in my top 50 all-time favorite songs. It is so perfect. It is perfect.
Okay, and that's on Tim, right?
That's on Tim. Bastards of Young. And the video is really cool too, actually.
Can you put a link up on it so that when we put these records up, put a link up? I'd like to see what that, or actually, well, I'm going to listen to the record, right? So I'm just going to wait and pay attention to that. I'm trying to figure out which records I should be paying particular attention to. And I like the fact that you pointed out records that were not the obvious ones, not the records that are on my immediate radar at all.
Well, you know, if you talk to another fan, they're probably going to have different opinions on that. But those are the two that I have very deep loves for, those two albums. Yeah. I need Stink, though. I don't have it. I don't think I even have it on CD. So I'm on the hunt.
And that's why we have these discussions, because it's not a matter of being right. It's just a question of, man, we love this so much, just being able to talk about it. It's been another great week, Kim. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Any other things?
I'm so excited that you got the Replacements. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I didn't want to rush, right? So now that I post them, I want to know what you guys think, you know?
I do want to mention one quick thing.
Go for it.
Just real fast. Killing Joke, Brighter Than 1,000 Suns.
Uh-huh.
This is the band Killing Joke, post-punk. I love Killing Joke. I've had this album for a while. It's an old cutout or whatever. But I bought the CD when I did a wedding in Lubbock, Texas. And then when I was going through my friend Hammond's, you know, I inherited his CD collection. He had that CD in there too. Anyway, this has been in the heaviest of heaviest rotations on CD and on vinyl. If you don't know Killing Joke, and they're touring this year. Actually, they're coming to Dallas as long as he doesn't get pissy and leave the stage.
Like he did at Roadburn.
Yeah, like he did at Roadburn. This album, holy shit, I'm serious. I've listened to the CD and album a dozen times in the past week, and it's been going on for months now. Like, I cannot stop listening to this album.
Way of Voivod is a very big fan. The drummer of Voivod, very, very big fan.
I love Killing Joke. So, people, get on some Killing Joke. This album is amazing.
Immediately, go buy it immediately. Use the links.
I think anybody who's a vinyl collector should have this record.
So, folks, check it out, man. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube. Subscribe to the channels. Share. We will pick winners for free vinyl. Thanks for paying attention. VinylJunkies.co. If you want links, and I think we're going to probably do Spotify. Me and Kim will talk about it, but we'll try to make it a good experience for you. Thanks for tuning in, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day.